Thank you, Ryan, for a beautiful program. I've enjoyed being with you all. I know this is going to create a lot of anxiety, but I'm going to ask every single person to put their cell phone on the floor next to them. It will not go anywhere, I promise, but it must be off the table on the floor, because even if it's on the table, you will be distracted and something will come up that will make you open it. So 10 minutes without a phone. My only disclosure for this is my screen time from last week. So again, I'm not an expert on this by any stretch of the imagination, but I was interested in the literature and the evidence that has come up regarding this problem. And so I'm interested to improve my performance in this arena. This is a Newsweek article from 2003. And I have this in a sexual dysfunction talk. And I think that in 2003, Newsweek got it all wrong. You know, here it says, no sex pleas were married, or stress, kids, and work killing romance. And they forgot to mention the elephant in the room, which was the screen. And I think that nowadays, now we come forward 20 years, and this is the very common vision that we unfortunately face amongst so many people. It's not these other things killing romance, but rather the competition of screens. And it's not just amongst married people or couples, it's really amongst friend groups. And I think that more and more as we go through the world, we're seeing more examples of people living in this funny virtual world, and they're forgetting how to connect with each other as human beings. You know, this is an astonishing thing. How many hours a day teenagers are spending on screens? And it's 8 hours a day. And unfortunately, not only is that time destroying their brains, but it's destroying their self-esteem, because those 8 hours of information that's being presented to them is all about, could you be a little bit better? Could you be a little bit more perfect? And so it's destroying so many parts of us without us having awareness about this. We check our phones on average 144 times a day. 90% of people check their phone within 10 minutes of waking up in the morning. So this is like a rampaging situation that we've been all taken hostage to and have very little awareness about the big demon behind all of this, which hopefully I'm going to open your eyes to. And that is, the phone companies and the big meta companies have worked on creating addiction to this problem. So what is addiction? Well, this is straight from the Mayo Clinic. It's like engaging in a substance or a behavior despite negative consequences. And what we don't have awareness about is the negative consequence of the screen time that's happening to us as a society. It's all about dopamine. So, you know, I know about the vagina. I don't really know that much about the brain, but the two things are quite closely connected. So it turns out that not only did I not know that much about dopamine, but the companies that are running the smartphones and all of the social media companies are very well aware of the science regarding dopamine, and they have hijacked your dopamine without you having any awareness about it. This is from a TED talk from a big guru at Facebook who admitted that they've worked to create bona fide addicts of all of us on the screen. So this is like from a big state conspiracy theory that they have really worked to create the addiction profile on the screens. This is how it works. So we've got this mesolimbic dopamine system whereby when you have a pleasurable exposure and you get an unintended consequence of a reward, it releases this huge burst of dopamine in your brain. Like to the order of someone on cocaine. This is the amount of dopamine that's released when you have this exposure and you get this reward. However, what's really interesting is if you give this exposure and you get the reward every time, it starts to become less pleasurable. It's like an expected, you should tell me I'm great after this talk because I always give a great talk. Well, not necessarily so. If you don't get told after 5 talks that you've done a great job, but then you get told, man, that was incredible, even though you delivered the same information, that is going to be perceived by me as a dramatically greater reward than what it actually was. So what have these companies done? when it comes to you posting something on Instagram, if you were to predictably give the like, the affirmation that what you've provided is good every time in the same way, you would start getting a little bit bored with that. So you know what they do? They try to create this unexpected reward, this first line, where they will purposefully withhold the likes from you until you get a big burst, maybe 48 hours after you've posted something, and all of a sudden, like 35 people or 3,500 or however many it is based on your desirability on Instagram. But there is this whole algorithm behind trying to control the dopamine activity based on this very algorithm. So this brain hacking is 1,000% happening, and you just have to understand and believe it to understand how you're going to start modulating your behavior to respond to this. Because what we practice, we become. And unfortunately, most people, there's so many people in the world, have been completely hacked, and they're sitting there completely engaged in this weird screen, and they've lost the connectivity to the outside world. This is creating a huge negative impact on our brains. So Ryan forwarded me this little article from NPR about a proven study that these habits can cut your risk of depression by 50%, better than most medications. Sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, exercising, eating reasonably, limiting our alcohol, and lacking sedentary time by cutting back on screen time, because the vast majority of people, when they're on the screen, are sedentary at the same time. So it's a double terrible negative. And the last thing, number 6, cultivate friendships through hobbies and activities. You know, something when you are sitting on your phone, the thing that you're not engaging in is an interaction with someone else to get positivity resonance from another human being. And this is where people are really having this radical deficit in their positivity resonance. And so I think looking at this from a perspective of basically self-help is a really important thing to understand. So I'm a very practical person. I'm going to give you, okay, these are the top 4 things that you're going to do to change this hacking from the tech companies on your life. Well, the first is self-awareness and self-management. Number 1, turn off notifications. Every single time a notification comes up on your phone, it's part of that attempt at that dopamine surge, and it's making you respond. Turn off the notification. I promise you, if you look at Instagram at the end of the day, as opposed to every time a friend comes up, this is something that's going to help you de-engage from this negative practice. Number 2, just leave the phones away from the table. It is just so sad when you see people not having conversations with each other at the table because of phones. And kids are really mirroring adult activity more so than they are really promoting the activity themselves. So just at the table, take that as an opportunity with your family to put down the phones. Don't sleep with your phone. This is creating this huge problem with poor sleep patterns. 90% of people have phones in the bedroom, and it wakes you up with all the notifications. And so a very, very helpful thing is just to not even have your phone in the bedroom with you. And number 4, develop some mindfulness. So this is my very favorite free app on the phone. I recognize that it's using a screen to reach an end, but all of us do need coaching about the healthy things that are available on phones, and Insight Timer is a great one. So hopefully we can transition from the left-hand screen to the right. It takes awareness and it takes knowledge of the hacking that's taking place, but I think it's fairly easy to make this transition. It's a lot easier to recover from the addiction of the phone than it is to recover from addiction to other things. In our own practices, there are so many things that take us away from the connectivity with patients. This decreases our empathy with them. We feel so burned out because in essence, every interaction is depersonalized. So if we could try and use the dragon while you're still looking at a patient to dictate something as opposed to doing it on the screen, I think that we're going to have healthy patients and healthier lives. So this is the final message. You really can. Thank you for putting your phones down.